Welcome back to Money Matters. This is David Kroll from Mortgage Network and Emily Johnson from Polaris Capital. And Emily was in the midst of sorting out the impact on the markets and what your personal kind of decision-making process should be when the market hits a high like it's hitting right now. We've had a very rapid, dramatic run-up in all of the markets since the election. This is widely viewed as a speculative run. There's been no major change in the economy. The economy has really incrementally changed, very much as we've reported for the last 3 or 4 years. Everything's just about the same, but a little bit better. So this is a very strong speculative move across the board. What do you do at a moment like this?
Well,
I mean, I know it's a hard
that's
question.
the million-dollar question. So
do you keep it on the table? Do you take it off the table? What do you do?
Well, inevitably, there's going to be a bit of a dip at some point, right? You never know exactly when that's going to be, and it could be caused by, somebody or it could be caused by something that Trump does. It could be caused by some blip in the markets. It could be caused by something that happened overseas. It could happen for any reason at all whatsoever. And when you have really strong markets, and the people that move the markets the largest are the big pension funds, the big insurance companies. They have the most skin in the game. It's not so much just your Main Street investor. So you have to be thinking about what are they thinking in markets like this, and you have to wonder, are they going to, those big institutions going to be locking in their gains for the year so that they can go to their board and say, we generated 12% this year and we locked it in, thank you very much, start again in January. Certainly possible that could happen, but by the same token, a lot of those managers actually, a lot of those big funds actually were steering clear of equity markets and were largely invested in cash earlier in the year, and so missed part of this run-up. So you're actually seeing a lot of those institutions and a lot of those managers keeping the funds in because they can't afford to go to their board and say, hey, I locked it in, but I underperformed. So they're having to stick with it. So you could think about mass movements like that, or you could just think about it from an economic perspective. There's inevitably going to be blips. If you look at any market chart, it trends upward. However, there's plenty of blips along the way. It just depends on what kind of a time frame you're looking at. That's what your financial advisor always shows you is what sort of a time frame you personally are looking at. But if you're thinking economically, my personal thought, and I think it's shared by many, many economists and analysts, is that we are in an upward trend. So if you are thinking from an economic and a market standpoint, keeping your money invested as is probably makes a lot of sense. The second part of this, though, or third part, whatever part we're on now, is to think about taxes. This is the time of year when we really do look at specifically in taxable investments, not 401ks, not IRAs, but inside your taxable investment portfolio. What do you want to do? What tax moves might you want to make so that you're paying less to Uncle Sam come January? So sometimes what we'll do is we'll look at what's called tax loss harvesting. We'll go ahead and realize losses. We'll sell positions with losses, and we'll sell positions with gains. Unfortunately, right now, we have lots and lots and lots of gains. And as wonderful as gains are, and people love making money, they hate paying the taxes on them. I'm sure you do. I know I do. So it's this sort of a catch-22 that we have, or it's a high-class problem to have if you have lots and lots of gains that you're suddenly going to have to pay taxes on, and you don't want to do it. So we're looking at perhaps next year that it's possible. There's definitely some talk of income taxes being lowered and capital gains taxes being lowered. Hasn't happened, but it's definitely something that people are thinking about. So then that begs the question, do you risk the fact that we're at a toppy market and we could see the market tip down a little bit going towards the end of the year if there are money managers that want to pull out for some period of time? Or do you go ahead and sell now and perhaps not get the benefit of any tax reductions next year? And I think the question could be answered. It could be answered in a million different ways. It really depends on your scenario. But I think that the question really should be, what do you want for the long term, and not making short-term decisions based on possible tax implications or even known tax implications, but really looking more for the long-term decision. If you feel strongly that this market is toppy and you want to lock in gains because it improves your sleep at night factor, there will always be more opportunities to get back in. So go ahead and perhaps take some of it off the table. It has been a great run, and if it's going to help your sleep at night factor and you're not going to kick yourself too hard if we suddenly see Dow 22,000 by January 1st, which is very unlikely, but it's possible, then go ahead and do it. But definitely, I would not suggest making short-term tax-based decisions when you're looking at long-term investments. So that's a lot in my monologue. Blah, 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 blah.
See, I could never do that in a million years.
Yes, you could.
Never
And you
in a
do.
million years. Never in a million years.
See, that's why you can do the show
It's-
by yourself.
But that's why there's two of us. They're really, we're looking at the same world, and we're just looking at it through two different facets,
and bringing it
through
all
two
together,
different prisms.
and bringing it all together.
Yeah.
If you have to suddenly pay 4.25% on your 30-year mortgage, and you were previously only going to be paying 3.5%, you have to keep up with that. And that, of course, is that fear of hyperinflation. Where are we going to be? But in order to keep up with those inflationary type numbers, which again, our inflation is next to nothing, right? Is it? Well, I don't even. Is it
It's
2%?
still it's not even 2%,
Yeah.
but it's 2 or 2.2. But
So it's not stressful to keep up with that now, but if we start seeing that jump, it will be stressful to keep up with that.
there's going to be a lot of things going on. This is going to be a very, not to be hyperbolic, it's going to be a very volatile time. Trump himself is volatile. The government is, the composition of the government is in a form and format that we've never seen before. These are decisive people. They're business people. They're not governance people. They're not people who are steeped in
Politics.
Politics and 30 years of working their way up through state legislatures and so forth. So there's a lot that we don't know. We also know that that the grand scheme of things looks inflationary. Now, whether that's inflationary in a good way, that the economy really is busting out and growing, or whether it's inflationary in a bad way, which is inflation with low growth, which is called recession. We're hoping that what we're seeing is
that stagflation?
That's stagflation.
There we go, stagflation.
But
Thank you, college economics.
you're going to hear more and more about this. You're going to hear about the prospect of a reduction of government revenue because of tax cuts, which puts that revenue on the street in the form of money available for growth and consumption.
Which should increase the other pockets of taxes. When we
put-
say taxes, there's
yes.
income taxes, but there's lots of ways
lots
that
of
those
other-
income taxes work
There's
their way up.
sales taxes, income
property taxes.
and property taxes. Those are the three big baskets.
Mm-hmm.
If you reduce income taxes, then theoretically you increase sales taxes and property taxes. The dislocations are what you're going to hear about. The guy on the street making, the household making $100,000 a year with two $50,000 incomes may not feel the impact for a year or two. Depends on what job you're in. Depends on.
But that's another, at least in the in sort of the financial services sector, I'm sure in some of the other technology sectors, et cetera, there's definitely talk of increased job potential there. And those are the kind of jobs that we've been missing for a decade nearly.
But as you plan your life, you've got to look at your specific circumstances. Coming out of my side of the equation, your mortgage is going to be more expensive. It's just no question. So real estate in this area is going to be looking at the issue of the $200,000 house being $150 a month more expensive, the $300,000 house being $250, $275 a month more expensive. At what point does that impact the market? Maybe not at all. Maybe in the short term, which is short term meaning in the next year, maybe it accelerates the market because people are going to finally pull the trigger and want to get into the market before things get even higher.
Well, but then
these are all the market dynamics. Yeah.
Well, and we hear much more specifically in real estate, and it doesn't impact our area quite as much, but about the millennial market that really is sort of the market that's sitting on the sidelines right now, and they are forming households, they are getting married, they are potentially thinking about having kids and all that, but they're not necessarily buying homes, and it's not because they don't want their family in a home, it's because primarily, at least anecdotally, it's because of the down payment. So unless you have mom and dad to give you $100,000 towards your down payment, then you're probably going to be sitting on the sidelines until some other programs come along that enable you to put that 5% down payment in again, which that will happen. That will happen.
We have programs right now in Hilton Head for 3.5% down, 5% down, in Bluffton for 3.5%, 5%, and 0% down.
Wow.
So don't sit on the sidelines. don't necessarily rush out and buy a house, but absolutely consult someone like me or one of my counterparts. Sit down, have a plan. If you sit on your hands, in all likelihood, the cost of owning a home at this time next year will be greater than it is today.
Totally
That's basically.
all right, well, we've covered a lot of ground, like we always do. Yay. All right.
This is fun.
Well, please
Yeah.
stick with us and come on back next week for more Money Matters. Have a wonderful week.